Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mineral Line, episode number 4. I am tMK, and this is the Mineral Line Eclypsia show where I interview some of the biggest casters, players, and people behind the scenes that we don't normally get to see. And this time, I have none other than Mr. Nick Axslav Ranish. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Cheers, cheers. And at the Mineral Line, there will be some DTs thrown at you, just so you know. And there are no scans, man. You are officially a Zerg who does not have lair tech or an evolution chamber. So, gotta be tricky, man. That drone micro. Alrighty. So, first question, which is gonna be pretty standard. How did you get into esports?
It just kind of came about when I started, I guess you could say, competitive gaming as an amateur in Brood War. And then I went to Warcraft 3 when that came out. Still as an amateur for a while, and then eventually I just started playing in Warcraft tournaments when they showed up, and realized you can make a little bit extra side money as a hobby doing that, and that's kind of what got me into it.
Cool, cool. Did you start off playing with StrifeCrow in the beginning, or did you two like meet up?
No, I mean the first couple years of my, I guess, RTS serious experiences all Brood War, and then when I went to Warcraft 3, I met up with him pretty early, and I don't think we played twos until near the end though, just because we only did it when there was really tournaments that would pop up.
Alright, for all those people which might be wondering, who's StrifeCrow? That is another nerd baller who is pretty awesome. I believe he's coaching now. I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Coaching, maybe playing some other games as well.
Okay, moving on to the next question. How did you get the handle Axslav?
So that was basically in high school. I used to wrestle on the team, and our last 2 years we had a coach who came from Belarus, but he called the former Soviet Union because when he was there it was still the Soviet Union, and he kind of spoke English and Russian, and he hybridized his own words.
Yep.
That didn't make any sense. They were just kind of a cross between the two. And that was one of the words he said that it doesn't make any sense, but it sounded kind of cool and aggressive. So I just took it as a handle.
Okay, I gotta ask you this question though. Did he ever, like, when you first came to your first class, was he like, I must break you?
No, he didn't. He wasn't quite like that. He was. He had a lot of his own mannerisms, but
Yep.
not all the stereotypes are true.
Cool, cool. And okay, now on to a question which has come to light over the last few days. Reddit has been ablaze with this to the point that Blizzard actually released new UI details because I kind of think they felt a little bit of the heat. With the recent save HOTS thing going around, what's your take on the current situation with StarCraft 2?
That's a pretty open-ended question.
DTs, man, I warned you.
Yeah. No, I like. I think a lot of people are like overreacting. Like, there's definitely, obviously, the beta and there's play things to help. I think the UI is a bigger deal than actually any type of gameplay issues, because those are going to get solved in the beta as it comes out. And I actually think one of the best posts is the one Grubby wrote on the subject.
Yep.
Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't directly on the subject, but there's a, I guess he called like a little blog he wrote.
Yeah,
most
one on
of
Team Liquid, right?
Yes, yes. Most of the blogs I read by programmers, a lot of them were just like complaining about things, and it almost sounded like their own frustrations with their experiences of the game, and not anything you can really take out in whole from the game as something that needs to be solved. But I really like what Blizzard came out and said about the new UI stuff they're going to bring out, because I think that's gonna help a lot.
Yep. Since you know, a lot of people complain about how the previous Battle.net on Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne was really, like, very, very good. When you came into StarCraft 2, like, initially with Wings of Liberty, were you, like, a little bit disappointed?
No, I really wasn't, actually. Right from the start, I actually probably enjoyed it more than Warcraft 3 as a game. I still think there's some things I miss about Brood War.
Yep.
One of the things is the direction. This is actually something I think Katz brought up to me once, that actually I think makes a lot of sense, is that almost most of the direction in StarCraft has been making things weaker.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brood War, like, everything was so powerful, and that's what made it interesting, was that there was so many, like, people complain about things like Vortex or Fungals, as like, or even like Hellion's Harassed Mineral Lines,
Yeah.
as different things that can end a game, just like a small little ability can end a game easily, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about the things at least I enjoyed in Brood War, and I think many other people did too, what were those things, right? Seeing Dark Storm, seeing Plague, seeing Reaver Shot, seeing Psionic Storm, which was 5 times more powerful in Brood
Yeah.
War,
Yeah.
seeing Science Vessels irradiate a whole Zerg army and then run away, and all those things that, like, in the vacuum, it's like, wow, this is way too strong. But then if you give it all the races, so basically, instead of making things weaker when they seem too strong, give all the races things to deal with it. Keep it the strength it is, but give other races, if one race has something that's too strong, other races has something that's quote unquote too strong as well. And I think that can make more interesting games where there's more moments in the game where someone could easily win, instead of, a 20-minute game in the first 15 minutes is that, well, no one's gonna do anything to win the game until they all fight a battle, because outside of a major battle, you can't end the game.
Yeah.
Which wasn't true, and it's not true with things like Hellion Harass or Infestor Siege either. Those are things that can end the game outside of a major engagement. That I think we could use a few more of.
Cool. I'm glad that we came on this particular topic, because another thing which people talked about as for Brood War was that a lot of those units and those specific mechanics were very micro intensive. While, for example, fungal growth isn't very micro intensive. It's like if you just have to wait and time it just right most of the time. It's not like you're individually just fungal growthing or something like that. But with Brood War, they complained that even though it was very powerful, it required more micro. So while it's less powerful right now, but it requires less micro. What do you think about that?
I'm not even sure if I agree with that. I mean, think of things like Plague, or I mean, I think Fungal does require micro to use it well.
It requires timing, yes.
It requires a timing, and also it's a lot of it's positional. Where you're going to put the infested where your opponent won't see them. And the thing is, right now it seems like it doesn't take micro because people aren't taking steps to counter them. It's similar to Psionic Storm and Brood War, right? If you're playing against someone who's not microing the units, it takes no micro to Psionic Storm. You just click it on their guys and they all die. Same thing with Dark Storm. You just put it on their units and then you wear one Zerg and kills 100 Marines, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as we see people taking measures to mitigate that, we then will see more advancements in the Infestor micro itself. One example of this, I think, is actually, I was casting yesterday the NA online qualifiers. It was loser bracket finals match between Scarlet and Gonzi was adding Ghost to deal to her Infestors. And so in the battles, there was this thing where he would send a Ghost forward, and she would pull the Infestors back, and then send a couple of Broodlords forward, and she'd send in one Infestor to try to just fungal and use the Broodlords to snipe, and he would try to like cloak the Ghost, and it was this whole little micro duel where at any moment one player could, like, if he got EMPs off on her whole Infestors, it would be game over, and vice versa. So there's this, but because they're both microing well, I mean, she ended up winning because he made a mistake and sent all his ghosts in a group at one point. But it was that moment, there was like a 15 seconds before that where it's like, since they were countering each other so well, there wasn't that game-ending fungal, and it was a very difficult micro situation for both players. And I think as a skill goes up, we'll see more and more of that.
Yeah. Recently, there's one particular matchup. Like, this is a personal question from me to you. Do you think that the Protoss versus Zerg matchup right now is a bit like, if you compare it to PvT or TVZ, for example, do you feel that this matchup is kind of problematic because you either see the Zerg go all in with the 6 Road Rush, or you see Sentry or Sentry Immortal, or you see an endgame situation where even though the Protoss has a really good army, he just doesn't have what it takes to really kill the Zerg army if they actually just go blow for blow. And he needs to get that Mama ship out just to get that Vortex. Do you feel that it's a bit bad, compared to the other two matchups?
I think on certain maps it is. I think Daybreak late game can get a little stagnant as far as that goes. I think there's a lot of things for example, the frequency of the Immortal all-in is mostly because Protoss players don't know how to handle Zerg late game.
Yep.
And the Immortal all-in is a build that, as we saw, there was about a month period where it's basically unbeatable.
Yep.
And then Zerg players have gone to the point now where it's almost a toss-up. At the very top level, I think Zergs hold it more often than they lose to it. But it's still very even. I think as players get better, that build's gonna have to be relegated more to a catch 'em by surprise timing build than a staple build.
Yep.
So I think that'll get filtered out to be more of a still build you throw in there, but you can't rely on that for your strategies. And as far as the late game goes, I think one of the things that can make the late game more fun is I actually think Protoss players seem to get better at working around abusing the mobility advantage they have in the late game. And on some maps like Daybreak, that's exceptionally hard, especially when so many spines and spores get up. But a map with more paths and more different angles, especially when you're looking at denying the 5th, 6th bases, those type of maps, maybe like, I mean, Tal'Darim has all kinds of problems. But a map, using that as an example just for this reasoning, there's so many options late game that you have to spread the battle out over a large area where then it's more of an even fight between armies, and especially you could get rid of the mothership, and you could storms actually work really well against Broodor and Faster Army if you can keep whittling them down. But of course, it's not going to be one punch fight. If you go for a single battle, you're never going to win. But the single battles aren't always as cool. They're cool, but I think a lot of what could make it more fun and people need to work on is just spreading the map out, more multitasking, and I think that's something we'll see especially with all the Broodor pros switching over. They're going to really take the game in that direction.
Yeah. Okay, another thing which popped up recently, on the forum there was this, I'm not sure who his name was, I can't really recall, but on the Blizzard forums there's a guy which has been writing about the different races and their identities. And he's been putting different ideas forward. And with the Protoss, he brought up a point where how gateway units kind of feel a bit too weak. And it feels like, gateway units are supposed to be like the backbone of your army, right? And the robotics units and Stargate units, those are like supposed to be the support units to help you finish the fight. This is how a lot of people felt the game would be, but it's actually the other way around. Do you feel that gateway units kind of do need a buff, or do you feel that Warp Gate is too powerful in itself if they actually buff the gateway units themselves?
I only think if you want to buff a gateway unit, I think it should be the High Templar. I don't think anything else should be, unless there's other buffs to other races, because and even if you buff the High Templar, they buff other races as well, especially, a lot of people complain about in the PvT matchup, but I think it's just because it would make the game, right now, if you look at the top level, people win pretty equally from all the races. So it looks like bounce is fine. And talking about racial identity is something that is almost like it changes, and people honestly they'll say they have identity, but they don't. Like in Broodor, at least versus Zerg, the gateway units would never beat the Zerg army. It was the High Templar that did, right? And same thing, if a Terran went bio in Broodor, Marine Medic, Zealot Stalkers lost even worse to Marine Medic in Broodor than they do in StarCraft 2. Way worse. But it's just the High Templar. So it's still, the racial identity it was always their spellcasters were the strong parts of them. It was always the Templar and the Reaver. And the racial identity of Terran has changed dramatically in this StarCraft 2, and I don't think some people mind, but in general, as long as the game's fun, you can make up racial identities kind of however the game's designed. You can make up a fun identity for the races and the way it's supposed to be played. So I don't think you should make changes at all to satisfy that type of thing that I think can be satisfied pretty much as long as the game's fun.
All right, you did mention the High Templar. Do you feel that either Chidera and Amulet should come back to the game? Or do you feel the AoE field, which actually is a lot smaller than people realize whenever they Psystorm, do you feel that should be broadened a bit?
I'd actually like to see it just have a larger area, which, it used to be larger when the game came out.
Yep.
And they had to keep making it smaller because it just killed too many units at one time. But I think, if you maybe make the EMP a little larger too, make give the other race. I don't think it's a big problem versus Zerg. If you made the area a little bit larger, and then I think people are getting good enough now that yes, the area larger, it would like people are complaining 2 Templar killed their entire army.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's because they weren't splitting them up. So it would basically bring in more, I guess, speed for skill in the game. And yes, it might make Protoss too strong, but then I think there's ways to make the other races stronger as well to balance that out.
Yeah, I know that if that would happen, I'm never going to take that expansion on Cloud Kingdom. You know, the one with the ridge?
Yes.
Yeah, never going to happen.
I think, I think all the races... Well, the Terran had probably the hardest time harassing that line. I mean, but Fungal Growth does a great job on that as well. And I actually love that part about Cloud Kingdom, the fact that there's so many harass options behind that 4th. And I think they're underused now, but we'll see more of them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this game completely just keeps, the metagame keeps changing on a daily basis. Currently, there are some StarCraft 2 units that, are a bit too over... Wait, did we already go through that? Yeah. There are currently some StarCraft 2 units which are a bit too overpowered right now, such as Force Fields and Fungal Growths, being too effective, and Void Rays not playing a role at all. How do you feel about that, and what improvements do you think could be made to fix it?
I like overpowered stuff. I mean, I think every race should get more overpowered stuff, and that's kind of what I said earlier.
Yep.
As long as it's interesting, which I think some people complain about Fungal and Force Field not being interesting. There may be ways to improve it, like maybe you make Fungal do a little more damage, but then instead of stop units completely, they move it like half speed or something. Maybe that way you'll see a little more movement and action in battles. Force fields, I don't know. I can't see any change in them. I don't think they make the game boring really. I think there's a lot of moments of tense and suspense coming into battles and seeing where the force is going to go, and then when units are trapped, is he going to utilize tunneling claws to try to get out? Is the Terran going to try to make a rescue mission with the medevac? Is it going to get shot down when it tries to do that? I think there's some decent things at force fields. It's not that the perfect spell, but I don't think you really want to look into changing it right now. So I actually like more abilities like that personally.
Cool. And now that we're on this particular spellcaster theme right now, what do you think about the Raven in itself?
The Raven. Okay, yeah. I think it's underused to a huge margin. We actually see. I've been watching a lot of Majors games, and Major makes this late game TVZ army that just is absolutely insane with mech and Ravens, and when they're used well in a lot of people complain, seeker range is too small and Fungals keep the Ravens back, but if you use them in conjunction with siege tanks, and then because siege tanks of course have range 13 which can zone out infestors, and then you have the Vikings force that corruptors coming to you. There's this whole little micro engagement that's really, really fun to watch. And there's been some great games in Major versus various top level Korean players where it's he's using the Ravens and they're microing really well against them, and the battles are really fun to watch. It's not, and then on the other side you sometimes see Raven battles where the guy just sends all the Ravens, they all get fungal, they all die, he loses Torp. Or the other side, I've seen ones where the Zerg goes in and Major gets off 400 Seekers, and that literally blows up the entire Zerg army. It's all just dead.
That supply just drops. It's like the stock market crash.
It basically is. So I kind of like it. I think there's a lot more usage for point defense drones against Protoss. We're starting to see some of that using with dropships to prevent a lot of Protoss use, a handful of stalkers to zone out drops. Yeah. And the stalkers can't beat the units, but they can prevent the medevacs from landing. But you throw in a 1-point defense drone, medevacs, that buys them time to get in there. Then all of a sudden the Protoss who is banking their defense on a certain thing, now maybe their army's on the middle of the map and now they're in really big trouble because of that cool use there. As well as just using them to snipe observers, and there's I think there's a lot more usage to them than we're currently using. I think that'll change. So I think you could do some minor tweaks, if anything, make them slightly stronger in some regards, maybe make the move speed for the Ravens slightly higher, something like that. but I actually kind of liked it. I like the spells they have.
Yep. Have you seen a guy called Katrak on YouTube?
No.
Okay, just check out his games. He always goes Planetary Fortress first into Mass Raven, and he actually pulls it off at Master's level, and I'm like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of his games are against Zerg, so it's like... he literally defeats a lot of Zerg comps, which you'd think he shouldn't, like Mass Infestor against Mass Raven. He kind of just totally destroys it, and it's fun watching his games. Since you've recently started to cast more and more games, does this mean that you'll soon make a transition from full-time pro to full-time caster?
Well, this is a question I get a lot, and it's actually a misconception about full-time pro. I mean, one of the reasons I think the North American scene lags behind the rest of the world is there's almost no full-time pros in North America, right?
Yeah.
That implies that you're playing and you're making money by playing, whereas that was never the case, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing is before we're spending a lot of our time coaching and making money, and then on the side we play, and so that's something that it's similar to how I am now. Whereas now I'm working with MLG to make my money, and on the side I'm playing. It's still pretty much a status quo. Maybe I'm practicing slightly less than before, but it's not a world of difference, and that's just the nature of the current. I mean, the biggest difference is just there's no ways to make money playing the game like there are, for example, in Europe.
Yep.
If you're a top European player and you've, let's say 2 years ago when it was relatively more even field, you had opportunities. There was about 5 different tournaments every day. That's still true now, where you could win 100-200 euros, and you'd be competing with other Europeans. And it was just so all they did is they would just play. They could play all day and play in these tournaments, and that's what they could make their living, or subsidize at least to a much larger extent. Whereas in North America, not only is there only 1 to 2 of these a day instead of 5, but there is also the problem that you know, no matter, you're not going to win them, because Koreans don't have the same latency problems on Europe that they do on NA, so they just come in and tend to win all those, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you want to see more competition. And at this point, we're behind enough. It's almost it's going to be really, really hard to catch back up. But I think a lot of teams are going the right direction. But this is one thing where people are talking about, like, oh, before you were a pro, that didn't actually happen. I mean, it wasn't like I was ever paid money by AG. When I was with Team Rain,
Yep.
there was about a month there where I was playing full time, and I improved dramatically. The Winter Arena, which I was able to qualify for the Winter Arena, and then I was able to basically almost beat Violet, who got 5th that tournament out of there was like 16 Koreans there, and I lost 1-2 in like a super close series that I probably should have when I was playing.
That was the one where you kept opening gate first expand, right?
No, this is before that.
Okay. Because I remember you did,
yeah.
like, that build is really cool, man.
Yeah, this was before I was really messing around with that. But yeah, besides that one time period there, you know, I'm still gonna plan on competing. Of course, I won't be at as many tournaments because I'll be working at MLGs.
Yeah.
I qualified for IPL 5. I'm not decided whether or not I'll go there. Just, I mean, I could if I wanted to, but it's the cost of getting to play in both ways is pretty significant. So I'll have to think that over.
Okay. We'll try and set up like a donation box, man, because I want to see you own in Las Vegas, man. All right.
We'll see.
Yep.
There's so many Koreans there also. It's
it's okay, man. It's okay. Like recently,
like a knockout one or two. That'd be nice, right?
Yeah, but that'll make headlines anyway, man. Just seriously, like, oh my God, Axslav beat Violet. I mean, did you see Grubby in Europe recently? His amazing series against Nerchio and Rhett. WCS Europe.
Yes, I did see that.
Seriously, man.
It was them.
Yeah.
Great games.
Really good. And what's your take on the recent, since we're on the subject, what's your take on the recent WCS series? Do you feel it's fine the way it is, or do you feel that more can be done on Blizzard's part to further improve it?
I think WCS is an amazing tournament. I think to improve it, they should do more of them. But well, actually, I'm not even sure about that. I think actually to improve it, they should do one. I think they actually shouldn't do too many more. One or maybe two of them a year. I actually think one year would be ideal, but make it even bigger. Bigger prize, so it gets recognition as like the tournament, and then they could hype it more through the game client and through their website.
Okay. Do you think they should like convert it into like a season, maybe? Like
it is.
Season.
It is kind of a season. If you think about it, there's like the regional, there's the national qualifier stage. I mean, it's not. It depends how you define season, but it goes over like a 3-month time span, right? There's a national qualifiers, and there's a regional qualifiers in North America, Europe, Asia, and then there's the culmination. So it's not the season as far as like a league where there's every guy plays matches every day, but I like the format.
Cool. And this is a question I have asked Mr. DJ Wheat and Caleris. If I gave you a blank check right now, and I told you that you can make a game or genre or something to specifically help esports, what would you do?
It's a good question. I could not come up with an answer that I would really want to put all that money on my own right now. What I would do is I would get a collection of people who I have a lot of respect for. A small collection, or else it's too big, 5 to 10 people, and come up with a plan with them. Just because I wouldn't feel, I think I have some ideas, but they're not stuff I think should be thrown a lot of money at without a lot of review and discussion.
Hey, but just for for the hell of it.
Okay, let's say everyone else is on board. I think I would like to host I think something like hiring coaches for teams outside Korea with full-time salary. I think as soon as we get, well, especially North America, if we could have a real professional North American setting, that was devoted. We have professional settings, but that's devoted to making the priorities, making the players better. Not, I mean that's all they care about, is making the players better. Of course, no one's going to throw money in that because it doesn't really pay itself off. At least not for probably 2 years. But if I had just tons of extra money to burn, that's what I would do. I would make a house or a team or something devoted just to making the players better in North America.
Yep. I know that you probably have the house designed like a Nexus, gold plated and all. I know.
Yes. Bling it out.
No Chrono Boost. That's too expensive.
Everyone's got to wear one of these. Yeah.
Oh, it burns. I'm a Zerg. Last question before we move on to the community questions. With the recent disbanding of Slayers, do you feel that this might create some negativity for would-be sponsors who are interested in jumping into esports?
Not really. No. I mean, teams rise and fall. I don't think it's going to have a significant impact on that.
Okay. Following up really quickly. Recently, I believe Slayers... Who's the Slayers manager name?
Jessica?
Yes.
Or you mean, she's the owner. I don't know if she might be the manager as well.
Yeah. She recently posted about how she offered MMA as a free transfer to Team Liquid. Do you feel that Team Liquid declined due to maybe like synergy issues? Like, well, they already have an amazing Terran. Having 2 amazing Terrans might disturb the team balance or something along those lines.
There's so much drama behind that, and I don't know the full story because there's a whole he said, she said, they said type thing, and everyone's saying different things. I honestly have no idea. I think that on yesterday's State of the Game episode, they really talked over that a lot, and that's kind of where probably if you want to know more about that issue, I would maybe check that out, just because I don't have the knowledge for that, really.
All right, guys, you heard it from Axslav. Go and check it out right after you're done with this video, of course.
Yes. This is more important.
Yep. All right, just a last question. I know I already said that was the last question, but I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I lied. Yeah, really quickly. If you were like to just be a gambling man, put a bet on where MMA will go team wise, where do you like predict he would go? Like which team do you think would take him?
Um, I could see a Complexity or Quantic. Maybe EG.
Mhm. But it's
Maybe
definitely a
Axiom.
foreign team.
Definitely. Definitely.
Cool.
I would be 95% confident it's going to be a non-Korean team.
Alrighty. Moving on to the dreaded Reddit questions, which are actually worse because they are like dark archons. They cast spells, man. Does the Axslav make the beard, or does the beard make the Axslav?
Uh, Definitely Axslav makes the beard. I'm the one who decided what length it should be, so that's the ball's in my court.
Yes, Hawkstar, you've got your answer, and Keetar Friend, you've gotten your answer. And Keetar Friend is also a fan of the beard.
Nice.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. And which is stronger, the muscle build or the man build?
I'll definitely say the man build. For those who don't know what we're referencing, sometimes when I stream, I make up names for builds, and the muscle builds where you make only Zealots, Archons, and Immortals.
Yep.
And then the man's builds where you only make Zealots, and then late game you can go carries if you want to, but basically only Zealots. And I mean, Zealots are the core of the Protoss unit, right? They're the guys who throw away technology, even though Protoss has the most, just to come in there and then go to it hand to hand. So they're definitely the most manly of the Protoss units.
Yeah, man,
Of
they're
all the
like
units in the
slugging
game.
it out, seriously. They're like Rocky 3, they know how to sprint as well.
That's true, they do. That's definitely an upgrade they got in. They have the sprint down in StarCraft 2. Brood War they more had the marathon run going, but sprint's definitely there in StarCraft 2.
When you said marathon run, I just for a second imagined like the $6 million man or something.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is from the Creature 1. Axlab, I noticed that since you started your casting job at MLG that you've been playing less and less on your NA account. Do you still practice around 6 hours a day on a barcode, or has your new job made it so you can't practice as much? I'm not sure what the barcode reference is for.
Some people make secret accounts. I don't. I don't have any secret accounts. If I'm playing, it's on my primary account. I practice about 3 hours a day. It was rare to ever practice 6 hours. Only when I was in rain, I was putting in maybe 8 to 10 a day. But without counting that time I was on that team, more around 4 to 5 probably is what I was doing before. Probably 5 average, or somewhere between 4 and 5 average a day. And so it's more down to 3 now, sometimes 2.5. So it's a little bit less, but it's not a huge difference. And of course, I am actually supplementing with a lot of game knowledge just by watching so many top level games.
Okay. Any early thoughts about HOTS? I've noticed you've been playing random. Do you think that you're likely to switch races when the official release comes out, assuming incorrectly that that things will stay the way they are now? Thanks, buddy. That was from Aquabear.
I don't think so. In Warcraft 3 I played random. In Brood War I played little random, and then I really went to Protoss because I like the Protoss race the most.
Yep.
Warcraft 3 I liked all the races equally, so I went to random. In Heart of Swarm I'm going to do random for the whole beta just because I want to get a feel for all the races. There's two possibilities. I'll either stay with Protoss or I'll go over to playing random. I'm more likely to stick with Protoss because I actually really like playing Terran as well, but Zerg isn't quite as fun for me, at least with the current HOTS. So if all the races are really fun, I might switch to random, but at least as it is now, I would definitely pretty much just stick with Protoss.
Okay, and it looks like we're all mined out here on this episode of the Mineral Line. Thank you once again, Nick, for coming on. Do you have any shout-outs to give?
Yeah, big shout out to MLG for giving me a job. It's awesome. And then, of course, for my team Infinity 7, our great sponsors, Steel Series, DeviantArt, C-Motion, GG Well Played, and Twisted Oak's been helping me out as well. And all my great teammates. We got a couple new recruits. Coma, Tubby the Fat, and Mike. And hopefully we'll see some of these guys. I don't know which of us is going to make it to MLG Fall Championships, but cheer for us there. And of course, our great leader, Emotion of our team.
Okay. And you can catch Axslav. I believe your Twitter is Axslav, if I'm not at
Yes, Axslav. Yes.
Do catch him there, and check out at Eclypsia Inter, and also check me out at the Mish King. And this has been the Mineral Line, and thank you once again, sir, for joining us, and I'll catch you guys next Expand.